Hey everybody, John Stevens again, excited to teach you today the newest segment of the Liahona Preparatory Academy Fast Track Financial Literacy video. Today we're going to talk about something very close to my heart. It's charity, donations. What does it exactly mean? One of my favorite scriptures of all time, I'm going to look over here at my computer, is actually Moroni, chapter 7. If everybody can look that up here, you can put the video on pause if you need to. Unpause. Now we're going to look it up, chapter 7 in the Book of Mormon. Go down with me to let's scroll down here together. And we're going to talk, first of all, go into verse 44. It says, "If so, his faith and hope is vain, for none is acceptable before God, save the meek and lowly in heart. And if a man be meek and lowly in heart, and confesses by the power of the Holy Ghost that Jesus is the Christ, he must needs have charity. For if he have not charity, he is nothing. Wherefore he must needs have charity." So let's talk about, according to the Book of Mormon, what's charity. It says here that charity suffereth long, is kind, envieth not, and is not puffed up, seeketh not her own, is not easily provoked, thinketh no evil, and rejoiceth not in iniquity, but rejoiceth in the truth, beareth all things, believeth all things, hopeth all things, endureth all things. A lot of F's there, if you've noticed. And this is where it's my favorite. In verse 46 it says, "Wherefore, my beloved brethren, if ye have not charity, you are nothing. For charity never faileth. Wherefore, cleave unto charity, which is the greatest of all, for all things must fail." So if you're like me, a religious man, we have just read there that charity, we need to cleave unto it because it's the greatest of all. In verse 47, let's just go on a second. It says, "But charity is a pure love of Christ, and endureth forever. And whoso is found possessed of it at the last day, it shall be well with him," or her. So there's a lot of charities in the world. Every Christmas, I go to a local Smith's or Walmart or whatever store you like to go to, and what do you see out front? You see a Santa. Ding, 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 right? And he rings that bell, and he's got his bucket there. It's for Salvation Army. And then we have the veterans out front. They do the little the roses, the flowers that you pin on yourself, and I always buy those as well. If you're LDS, then we have tithing, and that's 10% of everything we earn. You go through, and if you watch any movies late at night, and you see these animal shelter, for $18 a month, and they always have a really sad song. They show the sad puppies. There's charities like that. There's a Red Cross, right? Let's go through. I looked up here. What is charity? And it talks about that charity is a voluntary giving of help, typically in the form of money, to those in need. And I really like how it says typically in the form of money. And this being financial literacy, we need to talk about that. In the introduction, we talked about how income and financial wellness isn't just your money, right? We talked about family. We talked about your talents. We talked about all these different forms of what financial wellness is. And it's interesting that charity is typically in the form of money. But are there other things that you can do? So I'm a member of Rotary, and we do a lot of charity. And yes, some of it's in the form of money, but every so often we go and we clean parks, or we pick up trash from the road. The Kiwanis as well, I'm a member there, and we do a lot of service that way. But can service be helping somebody? Can charity be helping someone with their bags, like the Scouts do growing up? Remember, I always looked, when I was a Scout growing up, I always wanted to be that kid in the boy's life. And charity, you could be helping the lady across the street. And you always read about that, so-and-so helped a lady across the street, and the mayor recognized him, gave him the key to the city, and now they're a hero, and they become the president. And so I grew up in Germany. And I remember we're sitting there at the pool, and in Germany, the pools are indoors, then you swim underneath the wall, and they're outdoors, all sorts of slides everywhere, and you had a polar bear swimming area where it was super cold, then you go to the warm one, and you have hot tubs. I mean, it's just amazing. But there's a little boy that jumped in, and he started to drown. And I remember looking at my mom, thinking, I'm going to save this boy, and I'm going to be in boy's life. I was so excited, so I dove in, pulled the kid up, I saved his life, pulled him out of there, put him up, and all the adults came running over. They didn't realize what had happened. And I remember standing there, and I had my arms on my waist like this, looking around, because I knew somewhere that boy's life photographer was going to take my picture. because that's how it worked, right? Well, that's not charity. If we truly look at it, if we truly think about what charity is, as we talked about in here, charity suffereth long, is kind, envieth not, and is not puffed up. Envieth not, is not easily provoked, seeketh not her own. What I was doing was not charity, because I was doing it for the glory. Now, mind you, it was good I was there. I helped out. But let's look at some of the different charities out there, right? I looked up, there's a website called Charity Navigator, and they went through, and if you'd like to look it up as well, and I'll read to you how they classify charities. So reading from their website, it says, we classify charities by the kinds of programs and services they provide, and by the way they function financially. In sharing our ratings with givers and charities, we consistently hear the same piece of advice. Above all else, they ask that we compare organizations to similar organizations. So the different categories they have is animals. This is a charity. Animal rights, welfare services, wildlife conservation, zoos and aquariums. Then you have the arts and culture. This is number 2. There's libraries, historical societies, and landmark preservation, museums, performing arts, public broadcasting and media. Number 3 is education. Universities, graduate schools, technological institutes. Coming up here in a month, we've actually donated to the School of Business at one of the local universities. We're going to meet with a political figure. So we are donating this money to them. Private elementary and secondary schools. If you've noticed, Liahona is a private school. And so we always encourage our alumni and their parents to generously donate to the school to help make sure that we can continue providing the excellent service that we do. Other education programs, private liberal arts colleges. Next up, number 4, is the environment. Those are environmental protection, conservation, botanical gardens, and nature centers. Have you ever been out and noticed every time you go to a national park, for those of you who've been able to, there's always a little box or something saying donate here to help preserve this, or donate here to help preserve that. Number 5 is health. You can donate for disease, disorders, and disciplines. My son, he actually got diagnosed when he was 9 with Crohn's. And so for us, that's something very close to our heart. So when we see the events or the fun runs or things like that that help benefit Crohn's and the research of that, that's something that my wife and I are very, very serious about. Patient and family support. We're very lucky here in the state of Utah to have Primary Children's Hospital. And people who can't afford to pay their bill there, through donations and charities, they're able to raise enough funds and money to allow those people to have free service there. So we're talking a lot about good charities, right? Let's keep talking here. We have treatment and prevention services and medical research. Another one I want to talk about is Shriners. You go through there, a good friend of mine, his name's Tommy. He actually, through the Shriners, was able to get the use of both legs back. So once again, these are some good ones. Number 6, human services. Children and family services, youth development, shelters, crisis services, food banks, food pantries. Every month with my job, we do a free movie. And we try to have a big bin out front. And we tell people the movie's free, but would you mind bringing a can of food per person that attends our movie? And so that's a way that we're able to give back that way. Multi-purpose human service, homeless services, and social services. Number 7, international. Development and relief services, international peace, security, humanitarian relief supplies, single country support organizations. We talked about Rotary a little bit. A couple years ago, we were involved in a service project for Ecuador. We raised money in order to help the pregnant ladies down there have their babies. Now that seems pretty normal, right? Have a baby, go to the hospital. Well, in the country of Ecuador, where we were raising the funds for in this city, the mortality rate was astronomical. We had a lot of babies dying and mothers dying while giving birth because they didn't have the necessary tools, just the bare basics to have a safe and healthy childbirth. And so that would be an international. Number 8, public benefit, advocacy and civil rights, fundraising organizations, community foundations, community and housing development. And number 9, religion, religious activities, religious media and broadcasting. One of those, obviously, I am LDS, a Mormon, I served in Romania, so we call them mormoni, and we pay tithing. That's 10% of everything that we do. We believe in the law of tithe. Now, with so many different ones out there, the scary part is who's legitimate, right? Where does my money best get utilized for what I'm trying to do? And that's really the big scary thing for all of us out there is, are they being used properly? Are we actually, if I spend $1 here, does 100% of the money go towards helping? Obviously, I'm proud to say that the LDS Church, all of your tithing is used towards helping build temples. In fact, here, I've got a list here of the things. Let's see here. So it goes towards temple work, towards building new buildings, towards books, providing operating funds for the church. It also funds the missionary program. Now, mind you, that does not include individual missionary expenses. Temple work, family history, and other very, very important things, genealogy and everything. These are absolutely crucial. So I looked up another website, and everywhere you go, there's going to be different information. So I challenge each and every single one of you, and this will be part of your homework, will be to go up and look up different charities. I want you to go through and I want you to research how much is given to the actual cause versus to operating expenses. According to this website, the American Red Cross, they are able to keep administrative expenses at less than 5% of their total overhead. So out of every $1 you give them, only 5 cents goes towards administration, meaning bosses, operating costs. 92% of their income on actual programs that benefit the community. So that's what they spend. So this is a big deal. That's a very good use of your funds. Doctors with Borders. Now, they go into the most deplorable conditions to bring healthy healing to others. Approximately 86 to 89 cents of every dollar you give goes towards supporting the overall mission. Charities with a lot of overhead. Let's talk a little bit about those. You have charities that spend 30% or more on overhead. You have the Alzheimer's Foundation of America, American Printing House for the Blind. So make sure as you're looking at these different charities that you are aware of where the money goes, how much of that money is being spent. This is a big deal because as you grow financially, as we've talked about, as you go through and you manage your money well, part of managing your money is making sure that you donate. I personally believe, and we'll talk once again later on in this book, The Richest Man in Babylon, we'll talk about the fact that every time you receive money, you should give a portion to charity. You should give a portion to yourself. And as you divvy that out, you need to make sure, where can my money be best utilized? So make sure to take the quiz. Once again, your homework assignment for this class is to go through and research the different charities out there and how much is spent on overhead versus how much is actually given out to the program. Thank you.